Previously on the Skip and Josh podcast.
But here's my problem. That shouldn't even have been reviewed because the whole rule in the NFL for what is and isn't a touchdown is flawed. Yeah. And I'll explain.
That's not the only rule that's flawed because nobody knows what a catch is, to be honest.
Okay, but here's the thing. One of the criteria for being a touchdown should be that you actually need to be in the end zone with the ball.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello.
Hey, Skip.
What's happening?
I'm tired. What's happening with you?
Monday morning, early morning recording.
This is like we actually have a real radio show at 6 a.m, and like it's the everyone's waking up as they're listening to us.
Right. Yeah. Except they're going to listen to it whenever. Right. That's
exactly
the beauty of the podcast.
Right.
So just to set the scene a little bit, we're recording this early on Monday morning, and NFL just wrapped up, all of week 7, other than the game that's going to be tonight. NHL's in full swing, and of course the World Series is about to start. So I think we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about all those things, right?
Absolutely. I know that we sort of decided we'd stick to one sport at a time, but October's too busy to do that. In fact, I think you know this already. This past Thursday was only the 17th time that all 4 major team sports had a game on the same day.
Yeah, you had texted me saying, do you know what's happening tonight? And you took a screenshot of, the Score app. And I was like, oh, everybody's playing tonight. All the sports are playing tonight.
But I was surprised that it's only happened 17 times.
Yeah. And then I saw that it was 17. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I'm surprised. It's only because you figure like every October there must be one day where it happens, right?
Except that the NBA started earlier this year than they normally do, so that's one reason why it happened.
Oh, so I guess it's harder to overlap with baseball, even if it's just a week, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons.
And baseball hasn't always ended this late. Like Game 7 could be November 1st.
Yes, that would be. I don't think they've played a game in November ever.
Right. So that's like getting a little bit later.
And speaking of baseball. Mm-hmm. If the World Series goes to Game 5, then it's going to happen again where all 4 team sports are playing on the same day.
Once again, there's Josh with a public service message to everybody out there.
It's just a public service announcement.
Yes.
Whenever it has to do with the television schedules and sports, if you ever want to know anything, then it's like Josh is your man.
Or any schedule, not just television schedule.
I guess so, yeah.
Like your son's high school schedule, when he has phys ed and when he has lunch and all that.
Well, you know about that?
Well, I could find out.
Yeah. So you want to start with the baseball?
Sure. There's so much to talk about baseball. The risk is we may end up talking an hour about baseball and have no time for anything else, but let's go.
So how did you like the last game of the Astros-Yankees?
I liked it a lot. Because, Kate Upton was sitting behind home plate, so that helped.
That was beautiful.
Also, it was on a Saturday, so I didn't matter how late it went. I could stay up to watch the entire thing.
Right.
And I was actually, during Game 6 of the Astros series, I was worried when the score was 0-0. I was worried that the Astros were all psyched out and they couldn't hit anymore.
Yeah.
Clearly that didn't happen.
Well, they really didn't hit. Like, for those middle games that the Yankees won, the Astros completely forgot how to hit.
Yeah, is it that, or is there just some kind of crazy advantage to the Yankees in New York? I don't know what it is, because against the Indians, the Yankees did sort of the same thing.
Well, I mean, there should be a home field advantage normally. But
I don't know. I think in baseball, the home field advantage is the least important.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my opinion.
No, I agree with that. It is the least important. Also, maybe because they play the most games, so everything tends to even out more. Mm-hmm. But I mean, when you physically see the stadium in New York when the game is being played, and you feel it. The crowd was rowdy. The fans. It's kind of the configuration of the outfield. And the stands, there's like almost right on top of you a little bit. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a factor. Well, it was in this series, right? I mean, we don't have to say we feel it was a factor. The Yankees only won at home, right? So
I don't text you anymore during games because I want to talk about things on our show.
Right.
But what I do instead of texting you is I'll write the text. I just won't send it.
Oh my God, preemptive texts.
And I'll save them all, and then I'll tell you all of them now.
Okay, great.
So I have a bunch of texts that I typed that I never sent you.
This is a new segment called, you ever see like these websites like texts from tomorrow morning and like one night stand texts and all these weird things, So this is a new thing. This is like texts that were never sent.
Exactly.
I love it. This is amazing.
I don't know, I just woke up from a little nap. It's a little dark, but you guys silly? I'm still going to send it.
So in no particular order.
Yeah.
At one point I think this was in game 6 or maybe game 7. I don't know. Mm-hmm. They mentioned this stat. First of all, they mentioned the dumbest stats all the time.
Yeah.
But this one really annoyed me. They said Todd Frazier, he has scored 34 runs in the 47 wins that the Yankees had and only scored 5 runs in the 30 losses that they had since he joined the team.
Okay.
But I mean, you take any player on the team and you look at the stats in the games where they scored.
Yeah.
As opposed to the stats in the games where they didn't score.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
I guarantee you for Aaron Judge, it's the same thing. Because first of all, he only scores when he hits a homer.
Right.
It's the only time he's on base.
And then when he hits a homer, there's a good chance that they win.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
So such a dumb stat.
Yeah, they're stupid stat number 1. Yeah.
But by the way, Frazier and Chase Headley, who I don't know how he's still in baseball.
He's okay.
Those two guys scared me the most when they came up to bat because I had this feeling that, oh my God, here's this old guy who's washed up, who shouldn't even be playing anymore, and he's going to be the one to burn the Astros.
Well, like David Ross that hit a home run last year in the World Series, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, Headley didn't do anything, didn't do any damage, but still, I was worried every time he came up to bat.
Frazier's a gamer, like Frazier, he comes to play,
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
So the next one is, and this is, I noticed this throughout the series, and even I think in the previous series, but Gary Sanchez is a bad defensive catcher.
He's got a great arm.
Okay, but he can't catch the ball.
No, but he's really not a good defensive catcher for blocking balls, like pass balls in the dirt, and also plays at the plate. He's been terrible.
Terrible. There were at least 3 plays at the plate where he blew it.
Yeah, he can't. The ball like kind of escaped him, right? Yeah.
I mean, he better be a good hitter because he doesn't have a good glove.
He's a really good hitter. I mean, we've seen that for a year and a half. But yeah, maybe eventually he won't be a catcher. Like catcher these days when they hit, usually they don't last at catcher for a while. The teams tend to say, okay, now you're going to be our new first baseman or you're going to be our new left fielder, right?
and speaking of catchers and the Yankees, they traded because they had Sanchez. They traded McCann in the offseason.
Yeah,
and then lo and behold, McCann makes a great play when Bregman threw him the ball.
Yeah.
And McCann had to catch it and tag him all in one motion and somehow hang on to the ball, and he did.
And he had a big hit in Game 6, too.
He did. I can't stand Brian McCann. I have to tell you, he's one of my most hated players in Major League Baseball.
But why?
Because when he was on the Braves, he was like he anointed himself God. And he's like, everyone should play the game the way I say they should play the game. And there was an incident where a player hit a home run and didn't run around the bases quick enough. And McCann, wouldn't even let him touch home plate when he got to home plate and started a whole bench clearing brawl. Yeah. And ever since then, there were other incidents. There's a few examples of it, but I can't stand him.
Well, now that
I have to admit he did play well.
Now that AJ Przinsky's retired, another catcher in the majors had to pick up the mantle of, the home run trot police. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So
unbelievable.
Stupid. Yeah, really ridiculous.
But he and Bregman did make a great play when the score was it was a 1-run game, I think, at the time, and the Yankees were threatening to open up the floodgates. Mm-hmm. And I was very impressed that he held on to the ball. And
they're a very, very good defensive team, the Astros. Bregman is unreal at third base. He's a fantastic third baseman. Up the middle, they're so strong, right? I mean, look, I don't know how great Correa is, but he's good. Altuve is certainly, really good. Yeah. And, well, I mean, you saw the catch that Springer made in center. Like,
I'm glad you mentioned Springer.
Yeah.
So he made that great catch in Game 6 when Verlander was pitching.
Yeah.
But then do you remember in Game 7 when he crashed into his left fielder?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing there? It looked like he was trying to be the hero.
Again,
know?
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I realize you're the center fielder and 9 times out of 10, it's the center fielder's ball. But the left fielder was right under it. Didn't have to move.
Right. So what, do you have more texts?
The only other one was that when they took Morton out of the game and brought in McCullers.
Yeah.
I would have left Morton in for at least one more inning. He was pitching a 2-hit shutout. Why take him out?
I know. I think he had pre-decided when McCullers was kind of coming in.
Which is dumb because in a regular season game, if your starting pitcher is pitching a 2-hit shutout, would you take him out of the game?
No, but he was pitching on 3 days rest, and I think they were looking at the pitch count. Well, I'm not defending it. I'm just giving you what I think is going on in Hinch's head, right? So
again, the managers they make up their mind the night before what they're going to do, and they don't wait and see what happens.
Yeah. You gotta be in the game. You gotta read and react to what's happening, not stick to some predetermined plan, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, who knows what would happen? I mean, me and you say we would do this or we would do that, but is that the right thing? I don't know. That's why that guy gets paid, I guess. But the best text that you did send was on at the end of Game 7.
Yeah.
You texted me because, you see, if you're the authority on schedules, I'm certainly the authority on Kate Upton.
Oh, you are?
So you texted me, is Kate Upton sitting behind home plate wearing an Astros
I wasn't sure
jersey?
If it was her.
And then I wrote you back saying, yep, that's her. And she also went on the field during the celebration. Yeah.
I saw that you saw her and Verlander embrace. So I noticed she sat behind home plate for Game 7, but she didn't for Game 6 when Justin pitched.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a thing that she doesn't sit behind home plate when Justin's pitching.
Well, I mean, I told you, I follow her on the social media, all the different ones. So whenever she's been posting stuff when she's been at the games, especially when Verlander's been pitching, she's in with all the other girlfriends and wives, models. Well, yeah, you could call them that. With all the other wives and girlfriends of the players. So she's always been in the same spot. Like you could see where she is, right, in the Astrodome or on the road. She's with the other wives. So yeah, it was a bit weird that she was right behind home plate. But I think it would be. I don't think it would be weird for her to sit behind home plate when he's pitching. That would be bizarre, no?
It would be very.
Yeah, it would be crazy. Yeah. So, are you cheering for the Dodgers or the Astros?
No, I want the Astros to win for sure.
Me too. I mean, they've never won before, right?
No, they haven't. And the only time they were in the World Series, I believe they got swept. So they haven't even won a game in the World Series.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. The last time they were in the World Series was Carlos Beltran, right?
Was that it? Was 2005.
Yeah, he was. Remember, he was hitting homers like crazy, in the playoffs. Yeah, it was 2005. So, when you think of the Houston Astros, the history of the Houston Astros, is there any specific players that come to mind? Now that we're saying that,
Jeff Bagwell and Craig Biggio.
Yeah, besides them, are there for me? It's when I hear Houston Astros, I'm thinking of Jose Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
Terry Poole.
The big leg kick.
Right, Terry Poole. They've had a lot of... Dickie Thon. Exactly. That was a great one. A great one. So they've had so many, good players over the... and the other one is, Cesar Cedeno, right? This guy was so good. And, they've had a lot of great players over the years, and they've never really... They've been to the postseason, every now and then they make it to the postseason, but they've never, like you said, they've only been to the World Series once. So I definitely am cheering for them. I mean, the last time
Roger Clemens was on the Astros.
Wow, yeah, that's a blip in time. The last time the Dodgers were in the World Series was the Kirk Gibson.
Yes.
Right, which is
and the time before that was when they beat the Expos in 81.
81, yeah. So the Dodgers are I don't want to spend too much more on baseball because we've already talked longer than we said we would. Mm-hmm. But the Dodgers seem to have an endless supply of players.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that.
Every game, he starts different guys. Their shortstops gets injured. By the way, is Seager coming back for the World Series?
I don't even know, but the fact that they did it so easily, they beat the Cubs pretty easily, and they beat the Diamondbacks very easily, and they did it without Corey Seager.
They just took this guy Taylor. They said, okay, you're playing shortstop, you're leading off. He took a page out of Felipe Alou's book, right? The guy comes out of the lineup, you replace him, and you put him in the same spot in the lineup. Doesn't matter, right?
And he did great.
Yeah, he did great. And then they have, like, it seems like in the outfield they start different guys every game. Puig's been playing every game, but all of a sudden one day I see Jock Peterson's playing left. I'm like, Jock Peterson? I didn't even know he's on the playoff roster, right? And then this guy Kiki hits 3 homers. Like, who's he?
I never heard of him.
Yeah.
I never heard of him until that night.
You know, like, they use different guys every single game. It's unreal. So
when I heard his name, I thought it was the guy we used to play softball with.
Kiki.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Imagine. So, I mean, that's a World Series. I mean, I'm looking forward to the great World Series. It starts on Tuesday, and we have a couple of, like, the first pitching matchups really nice. Like, look, I care about the pitching matchups. You don't that much.
No, but I want to talk about them. I'm looking at them right now. So you got Keuchel versus Kershaw in Game 1.
It's good. I mean, Kershaw has something to prove, right? I mean, he obviously, like, he has this tag as, like, not a playoff pitcher, so, you know, but certainly he's the greatest pitcher in our lifetime, probably, regular season. You know, his stats are almost hard to believe when you see them, his regular season stats, you know. And then Verlander against Hill. Hill has been their big secret weapon, actually, most of the season, you know. He's done so well for them, although Verlander looks so unhittable that it's hard to imagine that they'll get to him, no?
Yeah, Verlander's been great, so I think I would give the edge in Game 2. Just looking at the pitching matchup, I'd give the edge to the Astros.
Yeah.
But then in Game 3, I'd give the edge to the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, Darvish has been up and down, and I don't know. I guess Game 3 might be McCullers?
Well, he's gonna have enough rest by then.
Yeah. So well, I guess there'll be Morton and McCullers. I guess we'll see. I mean, I was surprised that they started Morton ahead of McCullers in, like, the rotation during the playoffs, because I thought McCullers was better pitcher than during the year, right? But anyways, I guess we'll see. But I mean, the Dodgers have such a much deeper bullpen. The Astros don't seem to have anybody that they could rely on. Even their closer, I think he's scared to use him.
It's weird because the Astros had a good bullpen in the regular season. It's only once the playoffs started that the bullpen started to falter.
Yeah. So if I was the manager, I mean, you kind of have to go to them. You can't just ride these. You can't play a 7-game series here and only use Keuchel, Verlander, McCullers, Morton, and the closer. Like, you can't do that. But that's what he's going to try to do.
Yeah, it looks that way. You're right.
Yeah. So it's a bit bizarre.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
So, do you want to switch gears and talk a little NFL or NHL? You choose.
Okay, let's talk about the NFL.
NFL, Week 7 yesterday.
So...
It was the first week this whole year where I really didn't watch any football.
Well, I didn't watch any at all because I never do.
Yeah, I mean, I had it on here and there, but I mean, I really didn't pay much attention to it. I didn't like any of the games. The early games were bad. It was my wife's birthday yesterday, so we were busy with other stuff.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. You wished her happy birthday already, but yeah.
I know, but the listeners haven't.
And so, I mean, I didn't pay much attention. The early games were nothing appealed to me. So we went out and did other stuff. I took Matthew driving, did some driving.
How's that going?
It was good yesterday. He's getting better, yeah.
Good.
So then I came home and I watched a bit of the 4 o'clocks, and then I saw some of the night games too, but I don't know.
Here's what you need to know about yesterday's games in the NFL.
Yeah.
There were 3 shutouts. And that never happens.
Shutouts.
There were 3 shutouts.
The Colts couldn't score.
The Colts couldn't score. The Cardinals couldn't score. And surprisingly, the Broncos couldn't score.
The Chargers-Broncos game was the most surprising, right? Because
yes, very stunning.
Yeah. The Chargers are 3-4 now, right? I told you, if they had any kicker, any league average kicker, for the first 3 weeks of the season, they'd be in first place in the AFC West.
Yeah, you did say that. You're right. The other shocking score was that the Bears beat the Panthers 17-3.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, Cam Newton is this guy that you want to I don't know. I don't want to say you because I don't know how you feel, but like I want to like him. I want to root for him. I like when he's doing good because it's good for the league. You know, like the Panthers are good. That means you have a star, another star. I want him to be a star, but he kind of sucks.
This year for sure.
You know, like he kind of sucks. I think his body has taken so much abuse over the years that I don't think, and specifically his throwing shoulder. I really don't think he can throw properly. I watched him really closely last week when the Eagles played them on Thursday night, and he really I don't know. He just
he's taken a pounding. He gets hit all the time. Was it last year where game 1 and the whole season really where every game it seemed he got hit and it was late hits and
he was complaining about the late hits, right? Remember? But I mean, I think he's a little bit reluctant to run a little bit now because he's taken so much of a pounding, and I don't know. He just doesn't seem right, you know. And the Panthers as a team are just not that good, you know. Like honestly, they're right now, you know, what's their record? They're 4-3. They're okay. The division's up for grabs. It's amazing that division because the Saints seem like dead in the water after the first couple weeks. Now they're in first place, right?
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay, everybody's darling, you know, is can't do anything.
The best game of the week was actually the Thursday night game.
By far. Oh, my God. That was insane. Did you see the end of that?
I saw. I didn't see it live. I saw it.
Oh, my God. I was
day.
watching it live, and I was like, this can't be. This cannot be. You know?
So you have to explain something to me. I know you can't end a game on a penalty, right?
Yeah.
But, why did they get 3 chances? If
there was 2 penalties.
Okay, but if the defense has the penalty, then yes, the offense should get another try.
Yeah.
But there was one play where didn't Crabtree have the pushing off penalty?
But that was before the time ran out.
Oh.
Yeah, Crabtree had they were right there at the 2-yard line, ready to punch it in, and then Crabtree got the penalty, pushed them back.
Okay.
Then it was the last play of the game. There was 4 seconds or whatever.
Okay.
He threw it, pass interference, 0 on the clock, pass interference, another play, throws it again, pass interference, another play. And then actually there was pass interference on the last play too, but they didn't call it.
Because he caught the ball.
Well, I don't know. They could have called. Yeah, he caught the ball anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, I think there was potential. There was potential pass interference on both sides on the last play with him pushing off again. Crabtree's famous for that, and the refs know it too, right? They look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, we rail on the NFL all last year because the Thursday games were awful. But this year, the Thursday games have mostly all been good. So, let's give them props when they do the right thing. But, I mean, part of it is also you don't know if it's going to be a good game until it actually happens. But at least the matchups are good this year.
Next week is the Dolphins-Ravens on Thursday night. So, not the best. Yeah, but again, the Sunday nights and Monday nights have been so good like the last few years, and Monday nights have been so bad. But next week is another. This week we have a really good Monday night game, especially because I'm an Eagles fan. So it's Eagles Redskins. It should be the best game of the week, hopefully. And the next week we have got another good one, Broncos Chiefs, another division game, right? So
getting tonight's game. I don't understand Redskins fans. They think that they have a good team. I don't get it. I don't get that. Why do they think they have a chance against the Eagles?
Because they have a good record. They have a good record.
They're 3-2.
Yeah, but I don't think they have a great team, to be honest.
Neither do I.
Yeah. And Eagles are on a roll. But, I mean, it is a test. The Redskins defense is okay. They're okay, They seem to be well coached in the games I've seen this year. They're getting more out of their team than I thought they would. Or maybe Cousins is better than I thought he is. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I have actually 4 fantasy players in tonight's game, which is a lot for a Monday.
I have 2. Yeah, I have the Eagles D and Ertz.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot for a Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
I don't know how that happened. I have guys on bye and guys injured, so I had to use all these guys that I don't normally use, but whatever.
Right. But I mean, the other game that everybody was anticipating was the Patriots-Falcons, the rematch of the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I mentioned it to you, and you were like, big deal.
Well, both of them were playing bad going into the game, so it's not such a good game, and it wasn't.
So,
other than the fog was the most interesting part of the game.
It was. All of a sudden, I saw on Twitter that there's fog, so I turned on the TV to see what it looked like.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everyone's railing about how the Patriots are really not playing so good, but they're 5-2.
Right. Well, I did pick them to win, and I picked them to cover, and they did, as usual.
As usual, yeah.
But this is the first time all season that their defense didn't give up 300 yards.
And it's amazing because they played against the Falcons, who
Right.
presumably have this really great offense.
They obviously got up for the game because it was the Falcons.
Yeah, but it's amazing. You're the one that said the Falcons wouldn't make the playoffs. You said it at the end of last year, right after the Super Bowl.
I did say that.
And I mean, look, it's a little too early to see what's going to happen because anything they could still win the division. First of all, their division's up for grabs, and there's no one running away with anything yet, right? So we can't really see. I mean, the only team that looks like they could start to pull away and claim their division is if the Eagles win tonight.
Exactly. They'll be the only team with one loss.
Yeah. If the Eagles win tonight, they're all of a sudden 6-1, and then the Redskins are 3-3, and so are the Cowboys. So that's a big cushion. But I mean, if the Redskins win tonight, all of a sudden anything goes, right?
Yeah, and like you said last week and the week before, just when you think you know what's going on in the NFL,
very unpredictable.
Something happens and you don't know. Like the Broncos losing 2 games in a row to the Chargers and the Giants. What's that?
Very, very unpredictable. The NFL has been so unpredictable this year. It's like unbelievable to know like what's happening. Tennessee Titans are like 4-3. They're tied for first in the AFC South. I feel so bad for the Cleveland Browns. Like, they should have won that game yesterday. Like, it's so, like, they just find ways to lose,
Does Cleveland play San Francisco this year? Because I'd like to see that game.
I don't think they play this year. Those divisions are not meeting up. But that would be crazy. Well, the 49ers just got demolished.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in full-on tank mode. Like, they are honestly, like, they have no hope of winning, and they just want that first draft pick. Then you have another team like the Jets, who are... They're trying to tank, but it's not working. Right?
Right.
It's like maybe the GM needs to tell the coach, like, "Okay, you got to calm down now," but like they're supposed to be so bad, and they're using Josh McCown, who is so bad, but somehow they're 3-4. It's like I feel bad. I feel almost worse for Jets fans than I do for Giants fans, because the Jets fans are like, they knew they were going to be bad this year. They were embracing the fact that they were going to be bad this year, and now somehow they're 3-4, and it's like, well, we wanted that first round draft pick. What are you doing, guys?
I'd love to see the GM like walk into the locker room and say that at halftime.
We're supposed to get the first pick. What's going on? And now the Giants are a hot mess. I mean, they've played well the last 2 games. They actually played fairly well yesterday. The score, it was 24-7, I think, against Seattle. It's not indicative of the game. The parts that I watched a good portion of that game, and I was like, The Giants played tough, but in the end, Seattle kind of overcame them. Giants have no one on offense. Like, Eli Manning sucks, first of all, and he has no one to throw to.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know, and they had no running game, so I don't know how they're going to ever score any points, especially against a defense like Seattle. Right.
Right. And Seattle was coming off their bye week, I think. So
I mean, we'll look forward to week 8 and see where it goes. I mean, I can't wait to watch that Monday Night Football tonight.
The Skip and Josh podcast is back.
So moving to hockey.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, as everybody knows.
By the way, let's just, before we even start talking about hockey, I'm going to mention that of the 31 teams in the league, Montreal is in 30th place.
Oh, good.
With 3 points and still no regulation wins.
We're ahead of Arizona.
Barely.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing that Arizona is as bad as they are.
Yeah. Well,
but when it comes to plus-minus goal differential, Montreal's last at -20.
It's pretty sad when you look at the amount of goals that they've scored. 13 goals in 8 games. That's like they've scored 13 goals in 8 games, right?
Yeah. But that
Tampa Bay has scored 36 goals. Like, think about that, right? Toronto has scored 37 goals. Ottawa, New Jersey are over 30. Pittsburgh's at 30. Like, that's just the Eastern Conference, Like that's crazy. You've scored 20 more goals so far this year than the Canadians. Like,
the thing is, I knew they weren't going to score a lot of goals, but what you didn't expect was that Carey Price was not going to play well.
Yeah, and it's not just him playing bad. I mean, yes, he's playing bad. The defense is horrible, and they look lost. And okay, we talked on the phone yesterday, right? And we started to talk about hockey, right?
Of course.
Well, we were preparing like what we were going to talk about on the show, right? And as usual, we're both like, no, don't say anything. Don't say anything. We're going to save it for the show. And then I started to say what I wanted to say, but I'm like, I'll just save it. You know, like that's why we do the podcast, right? Because we had all these conversations for, 20 years and we said, let's record them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this has got to be, look, two things about the Canadians. What one fact about the Canadians do we know from the past 2 seasons?
That they have trouble scoring goals.
But globally, something that you don't necessarily think of. When they start to lose, they don't know how to win again. Right?
Yeah.
The last 2 seasons, they started off like 9 out of the first 10 were wins, basically. Like the last 2 seasons were carbon copies of each other, right? Pretty much.
Yes. They
started off on fire, first place after 10 games, and then they start to lose. And then they start to lose more. And then at, 2 years ago, it was pathetic. They were losing every game. They had the worst record in the league, over 60 games, like the last 60 games. Last season was only a little bit better. They started to lose, but they were kind of treading water after their big hot start, And now this year, once they start to lose, that's it. They are so fragile. It's the most fragile psyche of a team that I've ever seen. And it really starts with the goalie. Unfortunately, you don't want to pick on Price, but as soon as he lets in a weird goal, and that I told you yesterday, they killed Anaheim in the second period, right? 39 shots in one period, which is unheard of, right? And I really thought they're going to come back and win this game. And then Carey Price let in that 4th goal. It was a terrible goal, not his fault. The guy broke his stick, and the puck just went to a guy 5 feet away, and he shot it in.
Yeah,
like that. Weird circumstances and an unlucky bounce, and it went in. But I changed the channel after that, or I walked away. I came back, and it was 6-2. What happened in 2 minutes that you went from 4-2 to 6-2? They are so fragile. As soon as a goal goes in, or as soon as something doesn't go their way, that it's like it's over. And it's not that they gave up; it's that they're doing the wrong things to change things. They're too frustrated. Everybody's the I don't want to use this cliche, but everybody's gripping the stick too hard. You know what I mean? Everybody's trying too many individual plays, right? Like they're all pulling in different directions instead of one direction. And that goes to the coach. And Julien has a great reputation as a coach, but I haven't seen it yet. Honestly, I haven't seen it yet in Montreal.
The other thing that about Montreal every single year is that people love to panic.
Oh, well, as soon as they lose one game, they panic. Imagine 7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now people are saying, fire the coach, fire the GM, trade Pacioretty, trade Price, whatever.
Galchenyuk.
So here's the thing. Now is the worst time to panic, because now you're going to make a move that is literally a panic move, and then you're going to look back on it 6 months later or 6 years later and say, wow, that was a dumb move.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't want to panic, because honestly, even if you make the most amazing trade today, and I don't even know what that would be, but if you did, what is the best case scenario for this team this season? What is the best case scenario?
Well, best case scenario is they win 8 out of 10.
Okay.
And they get back into the playoffs, and they can maybe get back into the playoff race and get a playoff spot.
Right.
And then I'm giving you the ultimate rainbow and unicorn scenario.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What is it?
And then Carey Price doesn't let any goals in the playoffs, and they go all the way.
Okay. Well, that's not realistic.
No, that's what I said. That's not realistic. But yes, the best case scenario is they get into the playoffs and they get one round like last year and they lose. Right. Yeah.
So if that's the best case scenario, then there's no point in making any panic moves today, because whatever you do, that's still going to be the best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So while the coach may not be the right coach, the GM may not be the right GM, Carey Price is getting too much money. You're going to have one player on your team is going to be your highest paid player, but I don't think it should be your goaltender. That's my opinion.
Well, and if it is, he better be doing damn well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, maybe there are moves to be made, but you don't need to make them today. I think you need to stand back and assess.
Yeah, you need to really look at your team now when things are going, the another cliche, that gets thrown out a lot is, when you're on a win streak, you're never as good as when you're on your biggest win streak, and you're never as bad as when you're on your biggest losing streak. So hopefully they're not as bad as everything we're seeing now. And we've seen some signs that they're okay, but you're right. They need to assess okay, things are going bad. We're in the toilet, but while we're in the toilet, who's trying to get out of there? What guys are showing signs of life? Who looks like they might be a leader? Who looks like they're complete garbage? I can tell you who I think is garbage, but I mean, it's up to the GM to decide that. So
I don't know if I said this to you or I said it to somebody else. I may even said it on our show last week.
Yeah.
But because the Canadiens have been mediocre for so long, it's a bad cycle to be in, because you either barely make the playoffs or you just miss the playoffs, and then you don't get a high enough draft pick, and then you continue to be in this mediocre spot, right in the middle of the pack.
Yeah. We're picking 15 to 20 every year instead of getting an impact player. And then the one year where we did get an impact player was Galchenyuk, who's whatever. It's not his fault. Galchenyuk actually has the most points of his players in his draft year. Right. But I mean, there's Philip Forsberg in that draft, but he's played less games. But he's been a productive NHL player, all things considered. It's just that's the best guy that year had to offer,
And they should hang on to him, and they should hang on to as many young guys as possible.
Yeah.
And you know what? If they end up finishing 30th in the league where they are right now today, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Let them finish 30th.
But I really feel like Bergevin is in trouble in terms of his job. Only because the team has to keep improving, and actually the team is getting worse every year. The first year Bergevin came in, they went to the Stanley Cup semifinal, right?
Right. Yes.
And then every year then they've been worse. They've just been getting worse. Things are not getting better. And there's two things that came out that I heard this week that really struck me. One of them was just on Twitter. It was a little tweet from I don't know who. And it was basically this is not a team. This team is a collection of players. It's not a team, right? Because that's Bergevin's method. He's bringing in a bunch of weird spare parts, right? And it's not cohesive. And then the other thing is that Ray Ferraro said on Montreal radio, which all the Montreal radio people are regurgitating, is that the Canadiens have the worst centers in the National Hockey League of any team. Any team. You can't refute it. You can look at every team's top four centers. Canadiens are worse. And that's an indictment of the GM, because your centers were not good 5 years ago when you came here, and you knew it. And now they're not better. They're worse.
Well, I agree with you, but the only thing I'll say to defend Bergevin is that you go try and get a good center from another team, they're not going to give him up. So it's not like it's so easy to get one.
But there are players that change teams that all of a sudden show up that are good, You're right. If you need to address a need, you need to address a need, I just don't get it,
Speaking of centers, I just want to tell you this. I heard on television the other day, they were talking about, it wasn't even the Canadiens, they were talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
And one of the analysts was saying, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're in the market for a third-line center. And right away I said to myself, they should talk to the Canadiens, because the Canadiens are full of third-line centers.
The rumor is that they want Galchenyuk.
Yes, and then I heard the rumor after I said that. I'm like, they actually are talking to the Canadiens.
Right.
But, I mean, I would be very upset if they traded Galchenyuk.
Yeah, it's especially now. Like you said, why trade anybody now? This is where you're going to get all your worst... you're not going to get, you're going to make a panic move that everything's going to be worse, right?
I do think they should trade anyone over the age of 30.
Well, look, Thomas Plekanec needs to go. I can't watch this guy anymore.
You're not going to get anything for him.
I like Thomas Plekanec. He was a great player for us. I shouldn't play great. He was a good player for us for all these years, but he's not good. He's just not good. I told you, Thomas Plekanec is the best player at the NHL at one specific skill. And I've told you this before. There's no one in the league better at this one thing. He shoots the puck right at the goalie better than anybody. That's his skill.
So right? He's very accurate, you're saying.
Well, I don't know if he's trying to shoot it right at the goalie, but no one shoots the puck right at the goalie better than Thomas Plekanec. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit. We're going a bit longer than we thought of. I wanted to talk about the Leafs. And only because, like you mentioned, I'm going to segue to the Leafs via the Senators. We're going to go, we're going to drive east to west across Canada.
Okay.
So the Senators just dismantled the Leafs on Saturday night.
Yes.
And I don't know, are people in Toronto, like, all of a sudden, like, the parade's canceled now? Or
No, they're not. But I don't know if you heard before that game.
Yeah.
Vegas came out with their odds of chances to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And the Leafs are but the Leafs and Tampa are the top 2 teams to win the Cup now.
Okay, well.
Which is kind of ridiculous after a week.
It's hard to dispute Tampa.
You're right, it is. And by the way, we didn't even mention that Sergachev scored 2 goals in a game.
Yeah, I know, I saw. When we had David Alter on the show doing the preview, he certainly said in his preview that he thought Tampa was ready to like take the league by storm, right? That they were derailed last year because mostly of injuries and everything. Mm-hmm. But so you were saying, I just wanted to talk about the Senators for a second because they're a good story because they're having a good year and they're a decent team. And look at their top 2 centers, Kyle Turris and Derek Brassard, right?
Nothing special, really. If you ask
but
me.
Canadians would die for those.
That's
right?
pretty bad.
No, but I mean, they got those guys for nothing. Like, they got those guys for almost nothing, and now they're the top 2 centers. So, I mean, you can find talent if you're looking, because Derek Brassard would be a huge upgrade right now on a second line, right? And Kyle Turris also
on the Canadians, yes.
Yeah. So
I have a little Leafs nugget for you.
Yeah, can't wait. I love it.
So you hear these rumors all the time, and sometimes they're true and sometimes they're not, and you never really know unless it happens. But and I should preface this by saying this is not a credible source. This is a complete rumor.
Okay, well let me preface that preface by saying we are not journalists. We are fans. So we don't have to have sources. We don't have to protect sources. We can say whatever we want. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
That said, a friend of a friend of a friend.
Oh, that kind of source. That's great.
Mentioned that apparently there is some friction within the Leafs locker room between Mike Babcock and Mitch Marner.
Really?
Yes.
In what way?
And that's why Marner's been playing on the 4th line a lot lately.
But friction, like personal friction, or
well, no, because Marner apparently doesn't play well defensively, and so they've put him on the 4th line, and Marner's not happy with his ice time, and to the point where, I mean, if it comes down to one of them's got to go, it's going to be Marner because Babcock's not going anywhere.
If you looked at last year. And you saw it's Matthews, Nylander, Marner, right? That's like the big 3 gems of the organization.
Yeah.
And everyone was already speculating eventually one of these 3 guys is going to have to go because they can't all get paid.
Right.
And you can trade one of these guys and get like a defenseman or a goalie or something else, fill another need.
Right.
So last year it was hard to say who it would have been, but based on watching the Leafs this year, it's clear Marner's the 3rd guy, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, if he's been relegated to the 4th line and getting less ice time, and when you're not playing with Matthews and Nylander, your production's going to go down for sure. Mm-hmm. But if they are trying to trade him, they should be showcasing him on the first line.
Yeah, it's like what the Canadians are doing with the Galchenyuk. Everyone's saying Galchenyuk's going to get traded. I'm like, okay, then why is the coach playing him on the 4th line?
Yeah.
He's not going to score any goals, and then we're going to trade him. Then we're going to trade him for a 3rd line, another 3rd line center. We're going to, what's the point?
So, by the way, if I end up being right, you could say you heard it on this show first. But if I'm wrong, I did preface it by saying I have no credible sources.
I thought you were going to give me something juicy, like so-and-so sleeping with so-and-so's girlfriend, or...
Oh, I have no idea.
That would be great. Well, you did tell me yesterday that you were working on a guest who was going to give us maybe some inside stories about a major league clubhouse. What goes on? Baseball. What goes on inside a real major league clubhouse, right?
Yes.
So we'll see if that happens. That should be interesting.
That should be interesting.
All right. Well, great talking to you this morning, Josh.
Yes, I'm wide awake now, and I need to go eat breakfast.
Okay, me too. So before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or the podcast app of your choice. And if you do listen through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking or following our Facebook page. And as always, you can get all the links to everything that I just talked about at skipandjosh.com.
Great. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Have a good day.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.